Imagine walking down the street, minding your own business, and a well-dressed stranger approaches. You've never seen him before, or at least you don't think you have. But within minutes, you hand him your most valuable possession simply because he asked. Then you watch him walk away with it. It sounds absurd, but in 1849 New York City, one man pulled this trick over and over again. His name was William Thompson, and newspapers would immortalize him with a brand new phrase: the confidence man. New York City in the late 1840s was booming. Commerce, fashion, and polite society thrived side by side with pickpockets and swindlers. Wealthy men wore gold pocket watches not just for telling time, but as a symbol of success and status. It was also an era where manners actually mattered. Being polite, trustworthy, and honorable wasn't just good behavior, it was a social currency. And that's exactly what Thompson preyed upon. Thompson targeted male victims exclusively, not just because society back then was male-dominated, but because men were the ones wearing the expensive pocket watches. They were the ones walking alone in public. But most importantly, they were bound by a culture of gentlemanly honor. Thompson's scam relied on mimicking that social familiarity, the kind that played out mostly in male-dominated spaces. So women weren't part of the equation because the con wouldn't have worked the same way. William Thompson wasn't a shadowy alley thief. In fact, he was described as respectable looking, always well dressed in a fine coat, polished boots, and a top hat. And he spoke smoothly with the manner of a gentleman. His criminal genius wasn't in elaborate schemes. It was in simplicity. He didn't need disguises or props. All he needed were a few words spoken with utter confidence. It probably worked something like this. First, Thompson spots his mark. A well-dressed man standing alone outside a storefront. No company and no distractions, which is just the kind of quiet moment Thompson was looking for. He walks up with a relaxed smile, confident but not pushy. "Pardon me," he says, "but didn't we meet at the theater last week? Or was it the Union Club?" The man hesitates. He doesn't recognize him, but he also doesn't want to appear to be rude. Remember, politeness is a social currency. So he smiles politely and nods. "Possibly," he says. That's when Thompson moves smoothly into small talk. Nothing deep, just polite remarks about the weather, maybe the shops, maybe even the man's watch. "Ah, that's a fine piece you've got there. English, is it? I've seen one or two like that in Boston, but not often here." The man instinctively looks down at his chain, maybe even unbuttons his coat to show it off. Then Thompson leans in slightly, still smiling, like he's letting the man in on a joke. "Listen, this might sound strange, but I've made a bit of a wager with a friend. He claims no one in the city has any confidence anymore. Isn't that sad? He says you couldn't even ask a gentleman for a favor without being laughed at." A pause. Thompson lowers his voice just a little. "So, just for the sake of proving a point, would you have confidence in me? To trust me to watch your watch until tomorrow?" The victim freezes for half a second. That's when it happens, the internal tug of war. This man's clearly polite, well-spoken. He's dressed like someone who might be a member of his club, or at least a friend of a friend. It feels awkward for the man to say no. So, he doesn't. The man unclips the watch from his chain and hands it over. Just until tomorrow then." "Of course, you've restored my faith, sir." He pockets the watch smoothly, tips his hat, and disappears into the crowd. He didn't need to run. He didn't need to argue. He just needed the mark to second-guess himself long enough to say yes. And that was the entire con. So why did this work? Polite society had a very big fear of rudeness. No one wanted to be the one who refused a gentleman's request. He was so confident and so smooth-talking that victims felt like they should know him. And he framed the refusal as dishonorable. Saying no would mean that the man would lack trust and generosity. There was also the illusion of short-term risk. Saying that he only needed the watch until tomorrow didn't sound like it was going to be forever. In short, Thompson never stole watches. People gave them to him. Thompson's run ended in July of 1849 when police arrested him. Reports say he swindled at least half a dozen men with the same lines. The New York Herald's headline dubbed him the confidence man. and the phrase caught fire. At his October trial, victims testified that they trusted him. There was enough evidence that the jury convicted him, and he served 2.5 years in prison. From that day forward, a confidence man meant anyone who gained trust to commit fraud. Later, this term would be shortened to con man. This archetype has since appeared in novels, in films, in TV shows, always with a smooth-talking person looking for victims. And it all began with one man, one question, and a city full of people too afraid to say no. And maybe that's what's most unsettling, is how little things have changed. Back then, social etiquette made people too polite to challenge a stranger asking for a watch. And today it's different, but the effect is still the same. We're still often pressured to trust people who seem successful, who seem wealthy, well-spoken, well-dressed, people in suits, people on screens, people in power. We stay quiet because we don't want to seem rude. We downplay red flags to avoid rocking the boat. We assume someone else will speak up, and we assume that people who are smiling and confidently telling us things, that they're trustworthy. They must know what they're doing. And so the cons keep happening. Not always on the street, not always for a watch, but sometimes for your vote, your money, your trust, your attention. William Thompson may have helped coin the word confidence man in 1849, but the playbook he used, people are still using it today.